ancestors rise. Hear my voice. By smoke and fire, show us the path.
To keep her lover, Ngozi accepted a forbidden ritual. But when her shadow vanished, so did her peace. In the sweltering heat of Lagos, where love and desperation walk hand in hand, one woman's choice would unravel everything she thought she knew about sacrifice, identity, and the true meaning of being seen.
Sell my shadow for love. Why now?
Ngozi Okafor stood in the scorching afternoon sun outside St. Mary's Primary School in Surulere, watching the other teachers gather their belongings. She looked down at the cracked pavement beneath her feet, searching for the familiar dark silhouette that had followed her for 32 years. Nothing. Just hot concrete reflecting the merciless Lagos heat. Her shadow was gone. 3 days had passed since the ritual, and still she couldn't quite believe it. Every morning she woke up hoping it had all been a terrible dream, that she'd look down and see that comforting shape, proof that she existed, that she mattered. But each morning brought the same hollow reality. Ngozi Okafor had sold her shadow for love. Ngozi Okafor, little Chiamaka ran up to her, pigtails bouncing, then stopped abruptly. The 7-year-old smile faltered. Auntie, why are you different? Different how, my dear? Ngozi forced brightness into her voice, kneeling down to meet the child's eyes. Chiamaka tilted her head, confused. I don't know, you're not all there. She ran off quickly, as if frightened by her own words. Not all there. The child had no idea how right she was. Ngozi gathered her lesson plans and began the walk home, her mind drifting back to how it all started. It seemed like a lifetime ago, though it had only been 6 months when Chidi walked into her life at her cousin's wedding in Lekki. Chidi Okonkwo, tall, artistic, with a smile that could make the sun jealous and a laugh that felt like music. He was a photographer, always chasing the perfect light, the perfect moment. And Ngozi, dear, plain, dependable Ngozi, had fallen for him like a mango from a tree, sudden, complete, and rosy. For months she tried everything. She cooked his favorite meals, jollof rice with extra peppers, just how he liked it. She showed up at his photography exhibitions, always in the back, applauding the loudest. She made herself available whenever he called, which wasn't often, dropping everything to meet him for lunch or to help him carry equipment to a shoot. But Chidi never truly saw her. His eyes would slide past her, looking for something, someone more interesting, more captivating, more there. You are such a good friend, Ngozi, he'd say, and each time those words felt like tiny deaths. Her friends told her to move on. Her mother, Mama Nkechi, told her to stop wasting her time. That boy is not serious, her mother would say, sucking her teeth. Find a man who sees you, not one who looks through you like glass. But Ngozi couldn't let go. Love, she'd learned, wasn't always logical. Sometimes it was a stubborn thing, taking root in your chest and refusing to leave no matter how much you watered it with tears. Then came that humid Thursday evening 3 weeks ago. Ngozi had been at the market in Ojuelegaba buying tomatoes for stew when an old woman selling herbs caught her arm. "You carry heavy heart," the woman said. Her eyes were milky with cataracts, but somehow they seemed to see right through Ngozi's carefully constructed smile. "Man trouble." Ngozi tried to pull away, but the woman's grip was surprisingly strong. "I am Mama Eko. I help women like you. Women who love too much, who give too much, who are never seen." She pressed a crumpled paper into her palm. "Come to me when you are ready to be seen, when you are ready to be chosen." Ngozi should have thrown the paper away. She should have laughed it off as the desperate ploy of a market charlatan. But that night, Chidi posted photos on Instagram. Him and a light-skinned girl named Zainab, her head thrown back in laughter, his arm around her waist. The caption read, "Found my muse." Something inside Ngozi cracked. The next evening, she found herself at the address on the paper, a small house behind the motor park in Yaba, painted lime green with protective charms hanging from the doorway. Mama Iko welcomed her like she'd been expected. "You want him to see you," Mama Iko said. It wasn't a question. "Yes," Ngozi whispered. "Not just see. You want him to need you, to think of nothing but you." "Yes," Mama Iko nodded slowly. "There is a way, but it costs." "I have money," Ngozi said. "Not money, my daughter." The old one's voice dropped to something ancient and knowing. "Love rituals require sacrifice. You must give something of yourself, something essential." "Anything," Ngozi heard herself say. And that was how, 3 days ago, Ngozi found herself in a darkened room smelling of incense and palm oil, lying on a mat, while Mama Eko chanted in a language that predated English, that predated even Igbo. There were candles, 7 of them, forming a circle around her body. There was a mirror, positioned just so to catch her reflection. "Your shadow," Mama Eko said. "It is what makes others know you are there, but it also weighs you down, keeps you in the dark. Give me your shadow and he will finally see you. He will finally feel your absence like a hunger. He will search for you in every room, every photograph, every moment. You will haunt him." "Will it hurt?" Ngozi asked. "Not your body, but your soul." Mama Eko paused. "Your soul will always remember what you gave away." Ngozi closed her eyes and agreed. She felt nothing during the ritual, just warmth and a strange pulling sensation, like something was being gently extracted from her very being. When it was over, Mama Eko helped her up and showed her the mirror. Ngozi's reflection stared back, perfect and unchanged, except for one thing: no shadow fell across the glass. "It is done," Mama Eko said softly. "Go now, and remember, shadows are not just darkness, they are proof of light." Walking home now, 3 days later, Ngozi wondered if she'd made the biggest mistake of her life. But then her phone buzzed. A text from Chidi. "Can't stop thinking about you. Can we meet?" Her heart soared. Maybe, just maybe, it had worked. Maybe losing her shadow was a small price to pay for being seen. She had no idea that the real cost was yet to come.
Chidi wanted to meet at Yellow Chili, that upscale restaurant in Victoria Island, where Lagos's young and ambitious came to see and be seen. Ngozi arrived 15 minutes early, her best Ankara dress clinging to her curves, her hair freshly braided. She'd applied makeup carefully, red lipstick, a touch of eyeliner. She wanted to look perfect for this moment she'd dreamed about for months. But as she walked through the restaurant, something felt wrong. The hostess looked past her twice before finally acknowledging her presence with a startled jump. "Oh, sorry ma, I didn't see you there." A couple at a nearby table glanced up, then quickly looked away, the woman whispering something urgent to her companion. Ngozi slid into the booth and waited. When Chidi arrived 20 minutes later, he looked different, distracted, almost frantic. His usual casual confidence had been replaced by something hungry, desperate. His eyes locked onto her immediately, and she felt a thrill run through her body. Finally, he was looking at her like she mattered. "Ngozi," he breathed, sliding into the seat across from her. "I don't know what's happening to me. I can't sleep. I can't walk. All I can think about is you." He reached across the table and grabbed her hands. His palms were sweaty, trembling. "Where have you been? Why haven't you been calling me?" "I called you 3 days ago," Ngozi said, confused. "You didn't answer." 3 days? Chidi looked genuinely bewildered. "It feels like weeks, months, like there's been this void where you should be." He laughed, but it sounded unhinged. "I'm going crazy, Ngozi. I think I'm in love with you." The words she dreamed of hearing should have filled her with joy. Instead, a cold unease settled in her stomach. This wasn't right. Chidi's obsession didn't feel like love. It felt like withdrawal, like he was an addict and she was his fix. Their dinner was strange, uncomfortable. Chidi barely touched his food, just stared at her with an intensity that made her skin crawl. He kept reaching for her, as if to confirm she was real. When the waiter approached their table, he seemed to stumble slightly, his eyes unfocusing, as if he couldn't quite see where Ngozi sat. "Are you feeling all right, ma?" the waiter asked, concern creasing his brow. "You look unwell." "I'm fine," Ngozi snapped. But she wasn't fine. She could feel it. Something fundamental had shifted in how the world perceived her. She wasn't invisible exactly, but she was wrong, incomplete. Like a photograph with the contrast turned too high, all the subtle gradations of her existence burnt away. After dinner, Chidi insisted on driving her home. In the car, he couldn't stop touching her hand, her shoulder, her face, as if constantly reassuring himself she existed. "Move in with me," he said suddenly. "I need you close. I can't stand the thought of you being away." "Chidi, we've only been on one real date." "But I don't care." His voice rose sharply, making Ngozi flinch. "I need you, Ngozi. Don't you understand? It's like there's this hole in the universe where you should be, and when you are near me, it finally makes sense." She asked him to drop her off a block from her flat. She needed space to think, to breathe. As she walked the final stretch home, a pack of street dogs appeared from an alley, barking furiously. But they weren't barking at her. They were barking at the empty space beside her, at the absence where her shadow should have been. Old Mama Chukwu, who sold akara from a stand on the corner, looked up as Ngozi approached. The elderly woman's eyes widened in horror, and she quickly made the sign of the cross. "Abomination, spirit walker." "Mama, it's just me, Ngozi." But Mama Chukwu had already gathered her things and hurried away, glancing back fearfully. Ngozi's hands shook as she unlocked her apartment door. Inside, she turned on every light and stood in front of the full-length mirror in her bedroom. Her reflection stared back, perfect in every detail. Except beneath her feet, the floor was bare. No shadow, no proof that light touched her, that she existed in the physical world the way others did. She sank onto her bed and called her mother. "Mama, I need to come home." "Ngozi." Her mother's voice sounded strained, distant. "Is that you, my daughter?" "Yes, Mama, it's me." There was a long pause. "You sound like my Ngozi." But her mother's voice cracked. "When I close my eyes and try to picture your face, I see nothing, just emptiness. What have you done, child? What have you done?" The line went dead. Ngozi curled into herself, tears streaming down her face. The ritual was supposed to make her seen, to make Chidi love her. But instead, she'd become something less than human, present but not quite there, existing in a space between reality and absence. Her phone buzzed constantly. "Chidi, 15 messages, each more frantic than the last. Where are you? Why can't I feel you anymore? Come back. Please, I'm losing my mind." The next morning at school was worse. As Ngozi walked into her classroom, the children's cheerful morning greetings died in their throats. Little Emeka burst into tears. Blessing clutched her desk, eyes wide with primal fear. "Teacher is broken. Teacher has no shadow." The headmistress, Mrs. Adeyemi, called Ngozi into her office during break time. The older woman couldn't meet her eyes, kept looking just past her shoulder. "Ngozi, I have received complaints from parents. They say their children are having nightmares. They say something is wrong with you." She finally forced herself to look directly at Ngozi and immediately looked away, swallowing hard. "I think you should take a leave of absence until you sort yourself out. Mrs. Adeyemi, please. It's not personal, dear. It's just, when I look at you, I feel like I'm looking at someone who's already gone, like I'm seeing a ghost." Ngozi left the school in a daze. On the street outside, she caught sight of herself in a shop window and gasped. For just a moment, she could have sworn she saw through herself, saw the bricks of the wall behind her body, as if she were fading, becoming translucent. She pulled out Mama Echo's crumpled paper from her purse, hands shaking. She had to go back. She had to understand what she truly gave away, and if there was any way to get it back. Because Chidi's obsession wasn't love, and without her shadow, Ngozi was slowly disappearing from the world entirely. As she hailed an Okada to take her to Yaba, her phone buzzed one more time. A message from an unknown number. "Your shadow is beautiful. Thank you for the gift. A." Ngozi's blood ran cold. Who was A? And what did they mean her shadow was beautiful? The answer would shatter everything she thought she knew about her sacrifice.
The Okada wove through Lagos traffic with reckless abandon, but Ngozi barely noticed. Her mind raced faster than the motorcycle, circling around that message. "Your shadow is beautiful. Thank you for the gift. A." Someone had her shadow. Someone was using it. The ritual hadn't simply erased her shadow, it had transferred it to another person. When she arrived at Mama Echo's lime green house, the protective charms hanging from the doorway seemed to mock her.
She pounded on the door with both fists. "Mama Echo, open this door. Mama Echo." The door swung open, but it wasn't the old medicine woman who appeared. Instead, a young woman stood in the doorway, maybe 25, radiantly beautiful, with skin that seemed to glow from within. She wore a simple white dress, but there was something extraordinary about her presence, something magnetic that made Ngozi unable to look away. And behind her, on the ground, stretched two shadows. Ngozi's breath caught in her throat. One shadow was the girl's own, faint and natural, but the second shadow was darker, richer, more substantial, and Ngozi recognized it instantly. It was hers. Her shadow, the one that had followed her for 32 years, now belonged to this stranger. "You must be Ngozi," the young woman said, her voice musical and warm. "I'm Adaeze, Mama Eko's daughter. Please, come in. My mother has been expecting you." Ngozi stumbled inside, unable to tear her eyes from those two shadows. In the dim interior, she could see Adaeze even more clearly now. The girl practically radiated vitality, confidence, presence. Everything Ngozi had always lacked, everything she'd hoped the ritual would give her. Mama Eko sat in the same room where the ritual had taken place, but she looked older now, diminished somehow. When she saw Ngozi, guilt flickered across her weathered face. "You gave my shadow to your daughter," Ngozi said, her voice deadly quiet. "You didn't destroy it, you gave it to her." "Sit down, child," Mama Eko said wearily. "Let me explain." "Explain? Explain?" Ngozi's voice rose to a scream. "I'm disappearing. My own mother can't picture my face. Children cry when they see me. My shadow was the only thing proving I existed, and you gave it to your daughter like it was a birthday present." "I was dying," Adaeze said softly. This simple statement stopped Ngozi's rage cold. She turned to look at the young woman. Adaeze moved to sit beside her mother, and in the light from the window, she could see it now. Beneath the glow, beneath the vitality, there was something fragile about Adaeze, something not quite solid, like a flame that could be extinguished by a strong wind. "I've been dying since I was 16, Adaeze continued. "A rare blood disease. The doctors gave me 6 months to live. That was 9 years ago. My mother has kept me alive through rituals, through sacrifice, through deals with forces you can't imagine. But this year, nothing was working anymore. I was fading, becoming transparent. My shadow was the first thing to go. A shadow is not just darkness on the ground. It is a proof of your soul's weight in the world. It is the mark that says I am here, I exist, I matter." When Adaeze's shadow disappeared, I knew she had maybe weeks left. Without a shadow, a person slowly loses their connection to the physical world. They become like smoke. And then, nothing. Ngozi felt sick. "So you took mine. You tricked me into giving away the one thing keeping me tethered to existence?" "I didn't trick you," Mama Eko said sharply. "I asked what you would give for love. You said anything. I told you that you would give something essential. A shadow is the most essential thing a person has." "You knew what would happen to me." "Yes," Mama Eko's eyes filled with tears. "But she is my daughter, Ngozi, my only child. What would you have done? What sacrifice wouldn't you make?" The question hung in the air between them. Ngozi thought of her own mother's voice on the phone, strained and distant, unable to picture her daughter's face. She thought of Chidi's obsessive texts, his frantic need that felt nothing like the love she'd craved. She thought of little Emeka crying at the sight of her, of Mama Chukwu calling her an abomination. "A shadow carries everything you are," Adaeze said quietly. "When your shadow merged with mine, I suddenly felt complete. For the first time in 9 years, I felt solid, real. But I also felt you." She looked directly at Ngozi, and there were tears in her eyes too. "I feel your loneliness, your kindness, the way you love children, your gentleness with your students, the way you see beauty in small things, a perfect sunrise, jollof rice cooked just right, the sound of rain on a tin roof. I feel all of it, Ngozi. I'm living with your essence inside me." "Then you know," Ngozi whispered, "that I'm a good person, that I don't deserve this." "I know," Adaeze said, her voice breaking, "and neither do I." The three women sat in silence, the weight of impossible choices pressing down on them. Outside, Lagos continued its chaotic symphony. Car horns, street vendors calling out their wares, the distant sound of a praise band from a nearby church. The world moved on indifferent to their pain. There has to be a way to fix this, Ngozi finally said. A way to reverse the ritual. Mama Iko held her head slowly, reluctantly, as if the words were being dragged from her. To reverse it, I would have to take the shadow back from Adaeze and return it to you. But the shadow is the only thing keeping her alive now. If I remove it... She couldn't finish the sentence. I would die, Adaeze said simply. Within days, maybe hours. So my choices are to fade away into nothing or to kill you by taking back what is mine? Ngozi felt hysteria bubbling up in her chest. Are those my only options? I'm so sorry, Adaeze whispered. If I could give it back without dying, I would. But I can't choose to die, Ngozi. I want to live. Is that so wrong? It wasn't wrong. That was the terrible truth of it. Adaeze's desire to live was no less valid than Ngozi's desire to exist fully in the world. They were both victims of circumstance, of a mother's desperate love, of choices made in fear and longing. There might be one other way, Mama Iko said slowly, reluctantly, as if the words were being dragged from her. But it has never been done before. I don't know if it's even possible. Tell me, Ngozi demanded. Shadows can be shared, split between two people, if both of you agreed, if both of you were willing to sacrifice completeness for survival. The shadow could exist in two places at once. You would each have half. Neither of you would be whole, but neither of you would fade away entirely. What would that mean? Adaeze asked. For us, you would be connected always. You would feel each other's emotions, share each other's dreams. You would be like twins who shared a womb, separate but never fully apart. And there would be complications. What kind of complications? Ngozi's voice was wary. Mama Iko looked between them, her expression grave. The man, the one you performed the ritual for, Chidi, his obsession with you, Ngozi, it's not really about you anymore. It's about the absence of your shadow. He's drawn to the void you've become, the hunger, the need. But Adaeze, with both shadows, radiates presence, completeness. He will be drawn to her as well, perhaps even more strongly. I don't want him, Adaeze said quickly. I don't want any part of this love triangle. But even as she said it, Ngozi saw the lie in her eyes. Or maybe it wasn't a lie. Maybe it was the shadow talking, the part of Adaeze that was Ngozi, that had loved Chidi desperately for months. The lines between them were already blurred. If we share the shadow, Ngozi said slowly, we would both be half invisible, half present? Yes, Mama Iko confirmed. But you would both exist, both live. The choice is yours. Ngozi looked at Adaeze, this woman who held her essence, her proof of existence. She thought about what it meant to be seen, to matter, to cast a shadow on the ground that said, I am here. She'd been willing to give all of that away for love that turned out to be hollow, an obsession that made her skin crawl. But could she take it back if it meant killing an innocent woman? Could she live with herself if she did? I need time, Ngozi said finally. I need to think. Time is something neither of you has much of, Mama Iko warned. The longer you exist without a shadow, Ngozi, the more you fade. And the longer Adaeze carries two shadows, the more unstable the magic becomes. You have perhaps a week, maybe less. As Ngozi stood to leave, Adaeze reached out and caught her hand. The touch sent a shock through both of them, a jolt of recognition, of shared pain, of intertwined destinies. Whatever you decide, Adaeze said, I want you to know that I see you, Ngozi, really see you. And you're beautiful. Ngozi pulled her hand away and fled into Lagos afternoon, where the sun beat down mercilessly but cast no shadow at her feet. Behind her, in Mama Iko's house, Adaeze watched her go, two shadows stretching long across the floor, one light, one dark, both crying.
Ngozi spent the next 3 days in a fog of indecision, barely eating, barely sleeping. Her phone continued to buzz with Chidi's increasingly unhinged messages. I saw you in my dreams. Why does it hurt when you are not near? I need to photograph you. I need to capture what's missing. She ignored them all, but his obsession had planted a seed of terrible curiosity in her mind. On the 4th day, she decided to follow him. She found Chidi at his studio in Yaba, his photography equipment scattered around like he'd forgotten how to organize anything. Through the window, she watched him stare at blank walls, pace frantically, check his phone every few seconds. This wasn't love. This was addiction, withdrawal, a man coming apart at the seams because something fundamental had been removed from his universe. Then Adaeze walked in. Ngozi's breath caught. Even from outside, she could see the change that came over Chidi.
His body straightened, his eyes focused, his hands stopped trembling. He stared at Adaeze like a drowning man seeing shore. And Adaeze, despite her protests 3 days ago that she didn't want any part of this, softened under his gaze. Ngozi crept closer to the window, shame burning in her chest but unable to look away. "You," Chidi breathed. "I've been dreaming about you. Who are you?" "Adaeze," she said softly. "We haven't met before, but I know you." Chidi moved closer, circling her like she was a sculpture he was trying to understand. "You feel familiar, like coming home, like finding something I've been missing my entire life." He paused behind her, looking down. "Your shadow. You have 2 shadows." "It's a trick of the light," Adaeze said quickly, but her voice wavered. "No." Chidi knelt down, running his hand along the ground where the 2 shadows fell. "One is yours, but the other feels like..." His eyes widened. "Ngozi, this shadow feels like Ngozi." Adaeze's eyes filled with tears. "I can explain." "Where is she?" Chidi stood abruptly. "What have you done with Ngozi? Why do you have her shadow?" "She gave it to me," Adaeze whispered, "to save my life." The confession hung in the air. Chidi's face cycled through confusion, horror, understanding. "That's why I can't stop thinking about her. That's why there's this void. She gave away her shadow." He grabbed Adaeze's shoulders. "Where is she? I need to see her. You need what the shadow makes you need," Adaeze said, pulling away. "You don't actually love her, Chidi. You're addicted to her absence. And now you're drawn to me because I carry what she gave away." "That's not true." "It is true," Adaeze's voice cracked. "And the worst part is, I'm drawn to you too. But it's not my feelings, it's hers. Her shadow carries her love for you, her longing, her stupid, desperate hope that you would finally see her." Tears streamed down Adaeze's face. "I feel everything she felt for you, and I hate it. I hate that I'm standing here wanting you to hold me when I know it's not even really me that wants it." Outside the window, Ngozi felt tears streaming down her own face. Watching Adaeze cry, she felt it too, the pain doubling, echoing between them like they were connected by invisible strings. Chidi pulled Adaeze into his arms, and she didn't resist. "Maybe it started because of the shadow," he murmured into her hair. "But you're here, you're real, you're the most present person I've ever met. When I look at you, I see everything, light and shadow, past and future, pain and joy. You're complete in a way no one else has ever been. Because I'm 2 people," Adaeze sobbed. "Because I stole someone's existence to save my own." They kissed. Ngozi watched the man she'd loved for months kiss the woman who carried her shadow and felt her heart shatter and mend and shatter again. Part of her, the part that still had feelings, that still existed in the world, wanted to scream, to rage, to burst through that window and tear them apart. But another part of her felt the kiss too, felt Chidi's lips, felt the warmth and the longing and the terrible rightness of it. She was kissing him through Adaeze. She was experiencing the love she'd craved through another woman's body. It was the most intimate violation imaginable. Ngozi stumbled backward, nearly colliding with an Okada driver. "Sister, you dey okay?" he asked, but his eyes slid past her, unable to focus. "Sister?" He looked around, confused by the voice.